infrastructure development in the country was very critical. And IDFC's role as a catalyst to lead the private sector to infrastructure development, I thought was a very important opportunity, not only from a business perspective, but even from a nation building standpoint. I see similarities in where we are as far as the National Stock Exchange is concerned. It is an institution of national importance. I think if I have to look out over the next 5 to 10 years, market development is going to be critical to fund the country's growth. I don't think you can fund India's growth with just bank financing. That is also quite clear when you look at RBI regulations, which recently indicate that I think from 2018, bank exposure to single company or groups is going to be cut back quite sharply. And therefore, companies and organizations will need alternate sources of capital. And from that standpoint, market development is very critical, whether it's the bond markets or other parts of the market landscape, hedging products and various other instruments that are required if a large part of the financing of India's growth over the next decade has to come from markets. And so from that perspective, I think NSE has a very important role to play in market development. Obviously, it's got a very strong market share in businesses that it's in, but from a business standpoint as well, I'm sure there are growth opportunities in new products, geographies, and as markets develop, I think NSE will benefit from that as well. So I see that as that we are at an important juncture in terms of how things should evolve from a market standpoint over the next decade.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. The story of NSE is the story of India. As India will grow, exchange and the National Stock Exchange will grow. But IDFC currently is at a very critical juncture. The rebirth of IDFC has taken place. You're trying to reboot the entire organization. IDFC Bank has just started taking its baby steps in the financial sector. So some would argue that as a professional, maybe there are challenges, there are opportunities, and there are chances of making this as a great institute rather than going to an institute which already has arrived and has a formidable market share.
Well, yes and no. The reason I'm saying that is, the transition of IDFC from an NBFC to a bank is now almost 2 years old. We have a good portfolio of businesses. What I feel good about is the fact that each of our businesses are stable, have good quality management teams. And so from that standpoint, obviously, part of the strategy is to grow all the existing businesses. So that will certainly continue in terms of what we've been doing. And each of the businesses we have long ways to go. Bank is a subsidiary. We also have an asset management business, securities business, a private equity business, and an infrastructure NBFC. So all of them have good quality management. All of them have good quality growth profile. So obviously growth prospects at IDFC are also quite good. But it's in a framework where you have people in place. The transition is almost 2 years since we decided to go down the banking path. And we will be a universal bank as one part of our business, and so that's the nature. There will always be an unfinished agenda. Let me put it that way. If there isn't an unfinished agenda, there's something wrong with the organization. So from that perspective, you could make that point at any point of time in any good quality organization's evolution. But the point I'm trying to make is that in many ways, there are similarities to where IDFC was 12 years ago, where we are in terms of market development today, in terms of the role that NSE can play. And, this is not an opportunity that one has actively sought. It happens to be the case that there is a management void. There are also similarities. In fact, when I joined IDFC as well, there was a management void. And the first thing that I had to do as part of the team was within 6 months take the company public. So there are similarities to that extent where again here there's been a management void and there is an IPO to be done, which is obviously the immediate priority, but the longer term objectives, as I've outlined, have to do with not only the business objectives but also a broader objective of development of markets.
Now, I introduced you as CEO designate. How soon I will be introducing you only as CEO of NSE?
It's as you would have seen the press release. It is subject to SEBI and shareholder approval.
It's a formality.
So that well, I never take anything for granted. I mean, you have to respect the process. The regulator will have his view. Shareholders should have their views, and you go through the SEBI process and the EGM. I think the EGM itself is, I think, a 2 or 3 week process by the time you call it and conclude it and all that. So we'll have to just wait till the process gets completed, and then we'll have a discussion on what the date of joining, etc. would be.
Exchanges are known for track record and they are known for corporate governance. You're taking over as a CEO of NSE at a time when question marks have been raised about insider trading, access to information. How would you defend that?
See, I don't want to talk about the specifics of the issue because I'm not completely familiar with the issue. Point I would make is that from a corporate governance and from a credibility perspective, I think NSE as an institution has the highest credibility. There are issues. No, that could be the case. I don't want to comment on it because I don't have the details of it. If there are any issues that need to be sorted out with the regulators, that would certainly be priority, so that whatever issues the regulator has are resolved and are behind us. But as an institution and as an organization, I think credibility, reputation, etc. is right up there. So I wouldn't worry on those counts.
Till the time you don't get a clean chit, or until the time NSE does not get a clean chit on this entire insider trading allegation, do you think the IPO is going to be a big question mark?
Again, I don't have sufficient information to comment on it. My hope is that these issues will be behind us before we take the company public. So that would certainly be part of the...
as member of press, we always tend to do this good old comparison, is NSE versus BSE and BSE versus NSE. Now, what differentiated NSE was their technological edge, the fact that they were able to connect, adopt and implement some of the best technology practices in India. Now BSE is also not lagging behind. They have some of the fastest execution platforms. Technology is no longer an advantage for NSE. So how do you plan to fight on that platform? Because that is a differentiation for all the exchanges at a time when world is going digital, split seconds and decision making do matter.
So I'm not sure I would agree that technology is not an advantage for NSE. Based on my understanding, it still has a significant technological advantage, and NSE continues to invest in technology. So I think NSE will continue to lead in terms of the technology platform that it has and the investments that it's making in future innovations, making sure that you're ahead of the curve in terms of the innovation and technology. You have to always be mindful of what's going on around you and what's going on around the world, and make sure that you're ahead of the curve, anticipating changes, because some of them could be disruptive. So that is part of the role, because it is a technology driven platform, and I don't think NSE will lag in its technology advantage or any investments that might have to be made in order to make sure that it retains its technology advantage.
Now NSE has a formidable market share in the equity market. You are market leader in the derivative market. What's next in terms of a product category where you think new products could be launched, where you think that the growth is going to be sizable? Will it be commodity? Will it be forex? Will it be going global? Because current tie-ups of NSE, they've not been very profitable or fruitful. So you've spread your wings. So NSE has spread their wings, but somehow these global operations have not really translated into a great revenue opportunity or a profit pool for NSE.
Yeah, so again, I mean, I'm not going to outline the future strategy of NSE unless I've had an opportunity to interact with
I'm sure
management.
About
but
it before you
more,
considered.
But more broadly, what I would say, it would be all of the above that you outlined. There would be new products, new areas that NSE could get into. There would be existing areas where its market share is lower that we would try and grow. There would be new geographies that we would attempt to get into in terms of partnerships, etc. And there are various other revenue streams that NSE has beyond just the exchange business. So there are opportunities there as well, whether it's data related, technology related, etc. So I think the portfolio of businesses that NSE has is quite broad. There are growth opportunities in some of those areas where it is currently participating but may not have an adequate share. As I said, as markets develop, there will be new products that need to get launched. The bond market, I believe, is at a very early stage of development. The growth of that in itself can be quite large. So there are enough opportunities to focus on.
But in terms of product category penetration growth, which are 2 or 3 products you think are at a very niche stage?
There are many areas that are at an early stage. As I said, bond markets themselves are at an early stage. Agri is at an early stage. Okay, the government's also trying to do various things in order to try and streamline the agri value chain. The opportunities arising from commodities, agri commodity related business can be quite large. Likewise, there are opportunities for international tie-ups, which I think so far are relatively underexplored. And so that's another area where there could be growth opportunities.
Even though NSE has an investment in NCDX, and NCDX is a market leader in the agri commodity market, are there plans to seriously pursue commodity trading or commodity exchange?
So, there is already an investment in NCDX, right?
But
so
will it stay there, or are you looking at creating another platform?
We'll have to see. Once I get there, I'll have to explore what the possibilities are in terms of trying to get into some of these areas in a more meaningful way rather than just as an investment in another entity.
Now, you'll be the first year of NSE who's not coming from the NSE turf. It's an outsider now. I'm sure there will be challenges. I'm sure the thought process would change, and we know individuals do matter. Without getting into individual examples, we know that individuals, when they take over, they change. So are we looking at big disruptive change, big mega changes at NSE?
Again, I'll go back. When I joined IDFC as well, we had come in from the outside. It was an institution that did exist. We've grown the organization without being disruptive. That's not to say that we haven't attracted the kind of talent that we wanted, depending on where the gaps were. But I wouldn't say that my management style is a disruptive management style. I must say that since its founding, NSE has done an outstanding job. Everybody who's been at NSE so far, including all the previous CEOs and management, and including people who've been there now for many years, the attrition rate at NSE is actually quite low. So there are several employees who've been at NSE for a long time, and they've done an outstanding job. Obviously, they've done something right.
So you will not be a strict boss?
Sorry?
You will not be a strict boss?
It's not about being strict. I think everybody is okay in terms of being held accountable. So it's not that people don't want to be held accountable. And so from that perspective, we have to hold each other accountable for where we need to take the institution. But that doesn't mean you have to be disruptive. Okay. There are various ways of achieving that.
Fair point. Let me understand your take on the way brokerage rates are moving. Now, the volume activity is picking up. That's largely because the size of the economy is growing. But in terms of brokerage rate, both at institutional level and at retail level, the brokerage rates are coming down. As of now, IDFC Securities, you are in the other side of the fence. You are a broker. Are you getting a sense that there is going to be further cut and further chop and churn in brokerage rates?
See, I think if you look at the overall trend of transaction costs, those have generally been coming down.
Can they come down more?
They could, and that has more to do with whether there is greater adoption of technology-driven trading systems rather than intermediaries. And so you've seen that even on the broking side. Right?
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.